things. Just let's see. Let's see.
Hi, Curly.
Chris, or not Chris, Brian can't come to the meeting tonight. He's working late.
Yeah, he got called in.
Okay, we are streaming live, so you can start the meeting, Steve, at 6.
Okay, that's good. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Vermilion City Council public hearing, and then followed by a regular hearing. Public hearing tonight is resolution 2020 R-8, and it is a resolution approving the 2021 tax budget. So is there anybody who wishes to have, is Amy on? I've got a limited number of people on my top bar, so I don't.
Yeah, we have to wait for Amy because she is the one writing this.
I just let me actually call her. Let me mute me.
Okay, we'll wait. We'll wait a
Give it
couple.
a second.
And were there any other citizens, Gwen, who wanted to be on tonight?
No, just Homer.
Just Homer? Okay.
Homer. I just automatically send Homer all of them because he's requested all of them.
I wouldn't want y'all to feel lonely.
Right. Oh, here comes Amy. Got her, Jim. Maybe not. She might have just popped off. I wonder if she's in technical difficulties. Jim, tell her to try it again. She just bounced right back off. Here she comes again. All right, it's joining.
Okay.
Evening. Oh, she's not up yet. Good evening, Amy. How are you?
Gotta unmute herself.
Unmuted now. I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. We are just starting with our public hearing, and I'll just go ahead and read it again. Resolution 2020 R-8 is a resolution approving the 2021 tax budget. So basically, if you would just kind of, I know you did address this, I think, at our last meeting, but if you could just let us know what's going on and see if there's any public comment.
Sure. Each year, the County Budget Commission requires political subdivisions who collect real estate taxes through them to file a tax budget, and we file that almost a year in advance. So this would be starting January 1 of 2021. Actually, it's and you budget based on an estimate. You're estimating in this budget our carryover balances for each of the funds at the end of December of 2020, approximate estimates of revenue, and the concept of the budget for compliance purposes is that whatever we budget for 2021 cannot exceed that carryover balance plus our estimated revenues. And due to the timing of when the tax budget is developed so early in the year, really we're just starting to get into the second quarter of our actual year. These are very, very basic estimates, and I have really not incorporated a significant amount of impact from the current economic situation because there's just too much unknown at this point. We'll deal with that matter when we actually are doing our budget and for 2021 and as the year goes along. But this is filed for compliance purposes. It's not a spending authority for the city at this point, but does exhibit an asking budget for the taxes that the county auditor collects each year.
Okay. Okay. Is there any public commentary? Would anybody like to speak about this matter? Okay.
By public, I assume you mean other than council.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I'll speak for a minute if I may.
Go ahead.
Homer Taft, 3972 Edgewater. I have not had a chance to see the actual budget. I'm sure it pulls in a number of different things, but probably principally income tax and real estate tax. I have mentioned to one or two people, but I'm thinking, and I've listened to Ms. Hendricks' prognostications about 2021 and the fact that income taxes are likely to be down, and that we don't know what's going to happen with real estate taxes, but they're probably not going to go up a lot. And we have some serious problems in the city, and I will, if permitted in the other meeting, be mentioning a small problem we're continuing to experience here in BOL. But there's overall problems in the city of water, sewer, both storm and sanitary, but particularly some sanitary issues, water lines, street repair, street rebuilding that we're seriously behind on. And we don't have the revenue to do anything about it. This may be one of the few times in your life, folks, so I'm glad you're all sitting down, that you're going to hear me say, raise my taxes. But I'm thinking, my recollection is council only has until about the 1st of August or so to determine whether to put any levy on the ballot this year, which would be effective in 2021 for receipt purposes, as I recall. And I'm thinking that you may need 1 to 4 mills of additional revenue. And I am thinking that real estate taxes are a better way to do it than raising the income tax. And in part, maybe because it might not be such a popular tax on residents. And folks that own commercial businesses, folks that own second homes and others also contribute to the real estate tax base. And that really relates a lot more to the infrastructure needs that we have. I do think, and that may be beyond the purview of this meeting, but I'll mention it here and then I won't have to repeat myself in a few minutes, that you might consider looking at the charter altogether and the charter millages altogether, and whether there should be as much stripped out for each special fund, or whether there ought to be more dedicated to general fund where it can be moved around a little bit from year to year as the need, because 2021 may be a very unusual year in some ways. 2022 could be very different. But whatever you do, I would encourage you to look at the likely inadequacy of revenue in 2021 and the desperate need that we have to fix a lot of stuff and start fixing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Taft. Okay, well, with that, we're going to begin with our Vermilion City Council meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of reflection or silent prayer. Tonight's moment of reflection is going to last a little bit longer. I ask you to keep your thoughts and prayers with those who have lost loved ones to this virus and those who are on the front lines in our medical facilities, in our jails, our correctional facilities, and our first responders who are subjected to this. There are families grieving, and there are people that are facing tremendous challenges, including many of us. So we're going to have a little bit of a lengthier moment of reflection. Thank you. We begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
States of America,
to the republic
and to the republic
which it stands,
stands
one nation,
nation
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty and justice.
and justice for all.
Thank you. Gwen, can you please call the roll?
Hollivax,
Present.
Brady,
Present.
Luca,
Here.
Gahan,
Here.
Holmes is absent, Stark,
Here.
Karen,
Here. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 4th, 2020 council meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Gwen?
Yes.
Holmes. Oh, he's not here. Forget it. Gahan,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
Hollivax,
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Do we have any, we do not have any correspondence, correct?
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the President Council's report. There are 3 items I'd like to discuss. First is our scheduling. Right now, I just want everybody to know that I have a goal. The goal is in bold letters and italicized to come back to council on the 8th of June, 7:00 p.m. That would be a committee meeting day. We will at that point, if we do make it back to an in-person meeting, we will have follow the guidelines similarly to what we did in March. If you recall, we did have social distancing. We weren't wearing masks, and we just kind of got through it at that point. That is a goal I have, but I do want everybody to know that that decision will not be made to the last week of May or even maybe the beginning of June. I'm going to look at the Center for Disease Control and the governor's continued recommendations on public meetings. Obviously, we do not know if there's going to be an increase in tests or positives, and we don't know what's going to happen. So we want to keep that open, but I want to let everybody know that is my goal, to be back at 7:00 p.m. on the 8th of June. A couple things on that. I would never want anybody in the public or any of our council members or members of the administration to come if they do not feel well or if they do not feel comfortable. So that is not, we can work through anything with respect to any of those kind of situations. And the other thing I just want to, we want to be stewards of the people. Money, we're responsible, and we need to be good examples. So if we do go back on the 8th, I would ask you if it is still a recommendation that we wear masks, that you consider doing that. I certainly would not make it mandatory. It is up to you, but we want to just keep that in mind that that is something that we want to do. Second thing I would like to talk about is just in the city, and I saw an announcement was made by the mayor, and I know that he's going to speak about it tonight. Obviously, the events that we have in the summer are very, very important to the community. We need to consider that we don't just cancel things. I did see with some sadness, many other cities are doing what they think they need to do. With some of those are bigger cities, they're canceling many important events for the summer without really any regard to seeing where we are. I would just hope that our city makes that decision at the time that we need to make it. Meaning that, do we have enough information to make such a decision? I think that wholesale canceling of events would be a mistake, but I share the concerns that the mayor has and all of us have for public health and safety being first. So we're just going to have to be in a situation where we play it by ear and ask the public to understand that if something has to be canceled at the last minute because of new information as to this terrible virus, then that's just what have to be. So we need, that leads me to my third point. I ask all of our citizens to be respectful and kind to each other. Please support local businesses. Please make that a part of your budget as best you can. Go support them. Try to meal out. If you were normally going to go out to dinner, just call them up and say, can we get a carry out? They have been there for us for many, many years. It is time for us to continue to support them. So let's do that. As far as the social distancing and wearing masks, I simply ask you to understand, if it is your personal opinion that you should not need to do that, your fellow citizens are requesting that you do that. You don't know if the person that you're shopping with is going home to a loved one who's immune compromised. You don't know what their situation is. So simply respect their space, respect them as a fellow citizen, and wear your mask and continue to be practicing social distancing. So that's all I really have for President of Council. So with that, then we are going to move on to our committee reports, beginning with Councilwoman.
Thank you, President Herron. Legislative met on May 11th, and that was a Zoom meeting. We had 2 items on the agenda that evening. Topic 1 was fence regulations and swimming pools. And topic 2 was transient rentals. Both of those topics had quite a bit of conversation, and you can view the entire minutes at the city's website, which is thecityofvermilion.com. And if you click on the council link, you should be able to get to those, or actually it's the meetings link. You should be able to get to those entire minutes to be able to read through those. Our next meeting for legislative will be on June 8th, and that sounds like that's probably going to be an in-person meeting at this time. So we'll look forward to that all being together again. As for Vermilion Community Services, we have had no meetings for that committee. I did want to let everyone know that they are going, Ski Transit is going to begin charging for fares again on June 1st. So the entire month of May, they will not be charging, but June 1st, they will begin charging again for fares. And that concludes my report. If anyone has any questions.
Ms. Stark, I don't have a question, just a quick comment.
Sure.
How grateful I am for what community service has done with the fair situation. I know that does cut into their income. They need that income desperately, but how very kind and giving that was to provide that service in the manner they're doing it up through, looks like the next 13 days. So just to let you know how much I appreciate that very much.
Great. And we have to give credit to Sandusky Transit for that with a partnership, because they have jumped in there and agreed with no fees for Vermilion Community Service or Sandusky Transit. So it's really been a nice thing to offer for our people.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments for Councilwoman Stark? Okay. Thank you. With that, we'll go then to Councilman Luca.
Thank you, Mr. President. Utilities Committee met on May 11th. Of course, the complete text, the minutes is on the city's website. Briefly, there was nothing on the printed agenda. However, our city engineer was able to present some late-breaking information on the cost of inspecting and cleaning the main sewer lines and inspecting lateral connections for the 4 VOL streets with the highest reported I&I. That's Rowland, Cummings, Overlook, and Aldrich. The total cost discussed was $14,392.50, and this quote was referred to our finance director for review and comment. That concludes my report on the utilities meeting. The next meeting will be June 8th. The Vermilion Port Authority met on May 14th via Zoom. The minutes are in process. The next meeting will be on June 11th. Also, the annual Duck Dash fundraiser is scheduled at this time for September 13th, which is the first Sunday after Labor Day weekend, tentatively scheduled to be held at the Quack of 4:30 p.m. This includes my report on Vermilion Port Authority meeting.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Councilman Luca tonight? I have to look at my bar on my screen up here to see if anybody, okay.
Oh, sorry, I'll help you there.
That's all right, thank you. Okay, we'll then go to Councilwoman Brady.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee met on May 11th. First thing on the agenda was the current financial update. Our treasurer continues to monitor carefully the COVID-19 impact on our finances, and will continue to. And we are, the city is also continuing at this point to not charge penalties or perform shutoffs on sewer and water. Second thing on the agenda was the budget. I think we covered that at the special hearing this morning. And the next Finance Committee meeting will be on June 8th. Planning Commission will meet on June 3rd. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Brady. Councilman Holmes did have to work late tonight. He was called in. We do not have a meeting for the next Stormwater Advisory Commission, so we will next go to Councilwoman Scan.
Thank you. Historic Review met on April 29th via Zoom. There were a total of 9 properties under review. All were approved. Details on those you can go to cityofvermilion.com. The next meeting will be Wednesday, June 3rd, time and location to be determined. that concludes my report for that. And the tree commission met on May 13th. They reviewed and solidified their watering routes. The trucks will follow the CDC guidelines for the drivers, and the truck itself will be sanitized after every use. They have some grant information was introduced. However, due to this time with COVID-19 and the budgets, it's questionable whether or not it can be sought after. And the next meeting is via Zoom, undetermined when and where. And that concludes my report. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any questions or comments? All right, then we'll go to Councilman Hollavax.
Thank you, Mr. President. Streets, Buildings and Ground did not have anything on the agenda last week, so their next meeting will be on June 8th, and that'll be a Zoom meeting. The Contractors Board did meet on Wednesday, May 13th. There was no April meeting, so there was a long agenda. They had 16 applications they passed, and their next meeting will be June 23rd. And that will be determined if it will be a Zoom or how it will be, how we'll meet. And the last thing I have is Zoning Board of Appeals will meet on May 26th at 6 o'clock, and that will be a Zoom meeting. Is there any questions for anybody on my agendas or my committees?
I did have a statement or a concern that was voiced to me about the garage down on Edgewater, the variance. I know there's been conflicts in that area before, but they just wanted, they shared with me their objection to it and concerns.
Okay. Yes, Steve, if I could.
Yeah, please go on.
Those matters are that when anything is to go in front of zoning or isn't zoning, that is a matter for that particular board. That's within the executive branch of our government. So we really don't get into that. And Law Director Stumphauser, if I'm not correct, any kind of appeal from the zoning board, does that go directly to the Common Police Court or does that come to us?
It depends, but most go to the Common Police Courts, 2506 appeal.
Right. Okay. So in the event that we would have a matter in front of us on an appeal, we certainly would deal with that, but we don't make a law, you know, for particular situations. So
Just for the record, that issue that Emily brought up will be on the May 26th meeting agenda. So the board hasn't even heard,
okay.
requests. So it'll be discussed at that time and
Okay, thank you.
has been invited to the meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
And usually at that time, they give everybody an opportunity to speak if they do have an objected based on the variance that someone's looking at. Is that correct, Gwen?
Correct.
So if you can either, if it'll probably be a Zoom meeting, if they need to get with Gwen to be able to get on to the Zoom meeting because we're doing the Zoom, and at that point they can make their objective to a possible variance change. So if there's nothing else at this time, then my committee meeting or committee reports are finished.
Thank you, Mr. Hollavax. With that, then we'll go to the Mayor Safety Director's report. Mayor Forthover, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Council President. I have to say, well, first of all, I'll start with the Safety Director's report. And as Mayor and Safety Director, this past week has certainly been one of the more difficult, preceded by about a month of difficult ones. And I'm having to announce tonight that the city of Vermilion will not allow parades, public gatherings, fireworks, Third Thursday, or festivals during the month of June 2020. This, of course, includes the Fish Festival, though the Chamber of Commerce may see if it can reschedule the festival for later in the summer, governor's orders permitting. I've been in conversation with Governor DeWine's liaison with the Erie County Health Department several times a day, and actually with one of the subcommittees that the governor has appointed to research fairs and festivals. And the order stands from the governor: no parades and no public gatherings of 10 or more. Now, I plan to review the governor's order on a monthly basis. My hope is that the governor's orders may be amended as we go on, and Vermilionites can still enjoy some summer activity later this season, safety permitting. The Valley View pool opening is being reviewed by the Parks and Recreation Department, and they will make a recommendation to me tomorrow, Tuesday, the 19th. I will decide on that time as whether or not a safe pool activity persists for the opening of the Valley View pool. Also separately, I have a reminder from Chief Hartung that this is range week, and the chief has invited council members to stop by this week at the tactical range at 49300 Cooper Foster as VPD officers qualify and undergo training. Now, in the mayor's report, I have to offer my compliments to the service director, streets and water departments who were out Friday all through the night to Saturday dealing with the deluge. They did the best job possible dealing with its after effects. I was driving back from Cleveland and witnessed the same thing in every community between here and there. Roads were blocked, intersections were impassable. It was just a deluge that overwhelmed most municipalities' ability to cope with it through their normal sewer systems. On the subject of reopenings, the May 12th reopening of retail establishments in town was only partially observed by some merchants. Most retail establishments remain closed on the 15th and remain closed on the 15th. Several commented they were still establishing a protocol that allows for them to comply with the safe operations, that they'll reopen when the process is refined. City Hall will have its reopening on June 1st. We'll also be opening City Hall to the public under the many safety protocols as we can enforce. And that always seems to be the rub. How many can you actually enforce without actually hiring people to do the enforcing? In economic activity, George's Roofing on Liberty is looking really nice, especially after demolishing the old apartments. I look forward to hearing the rest of their plan. Kevin Boggs wants to come in and talk about them. Landscaping has started on Defense Soap, as Guy Sacco has promised. Downtown, the painting of the Woodstock building is underway, and the painting of the old deli store at the corner of West River and Liberty. Silly Goose has a new awning up. Rudy and Sarah Stepp used their shutdown time to do some really nice renovations inside Rudy's. And merchants along Main Street are planting their flower boxes. Flags are going up on Liberty, and Vermilion and Blue has done its usual beautiful job of planting the downtown. That concludes my report, with the exception that I also asked for an executive session tonight, the subject of pending litigation. That concludes my report, Mr. Council President.
Thank you, Mayor Forthover. Are there any questions or comments for the mayor tonight? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to our service director's report. Good evening, Mr. Valerius.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to mention that the flashing light at the intersection of Ohio and Sandusky Streets has been removed. The mechanical parts that make the light flash wore down and shorted it out. This will not change the traffic pattern. There are stop signs for the northbound and southbound traffic on Sandusky Street. Ohio Street has the right of way, as it always has. The property maintenance inspector is back and will be out taking an aggressive approach in inspecting properties for code violations. Some of his priorities will be high grass, structural maintenance, and non-compliant vehicles, just to name a few. And lastly, tonight, I too wanted to thank all the service employees for their efforts in cleaning up after the heavy rains last Friday. Several crews were out from all departments, maintaining the lift stations and the plants, and clearing and operating or opening tiles, culverts, and catch basins to keep the stormwater flowing. City systems were not designed to handle water of that magnitude in such a short amount of time, but the guys were able to get everything cleared within a couple of hours. So thank you to them. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. And yes, I want to echo the thanks from Mayor and from you to the crews out there. They did a great job. Thank you. Are there any questions, any other questions or comments for Mr. Valerius tonight? Okay, thank you. And we'll now go to the finance director's report. Ms. Hendricks.
I always forget to get prepared and unmute myself with that. By the time I get that learned, we'll be back to the meeting. Just a couple of updates. I did receive via email today from Rita a report for the reconciliation of April's income tax collections. And just to see how complicated and crazy this all is, that our withholding taxes for the employers within the city of Vermilion was actually up by 8.64% during April. That equals $11,600. And that really could be just something as simple as one of the major employers had 3 payrolls in their month rather than 2. So I don't know that that's really an indication we've had increased employment in the city. We'll have to watch how that trend goes. In individual income tax, that was actually down almost 49% from April of last year. Now, I did call Rita after receiving this information just to talk a little bit about clarification, and they did confirm that that could be significantly related to the postponement of the income tax filing date. So many people who would normally have filed their 2019 taxes paid the 2020 estimates so far for the year would have, if they had all paid in the appropriate time frame historically, that number may have been much smaller. But again, we'll continue to watch those trends. And as a result of the committee meeting for utilities, it was mentioned that a review of funding for the pricing for the testing of the laterals on the 4 streets, and that was just under $15,000. And I've spoken to the service director as well as Mayor Forthover in the past week, and we do have money definitely to do that testing. The only qualification I would give is, depending on what the outcome of some of that testing would be in talking to them, those could be costly projects that may not all be able to be completed immediately given the level of funding at this point in time, but would give us the ability to put priorities on them. And that would conclude my report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Ms. Hendricks tonight? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Mr. Howard, good evening for the city engineers report.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple project updates. The Haber Road Bridge Replacement Project is currently on hold till June 1st, per the Erie County Engineer's Office. The Sanford Street Water Main Replacement Project is tentatively scheduled to start the first week of June. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, thank you. We'll go to our law director's report. Mr. Stumphauser. You're on mute.
Let me unmute him. Hold on.
Okay, Ken, go ahead.
During the executive session following this meeting, I will supplement the mayor's comments that relate to pending litigation and possible litigation. So my comments will be incorporated at that point. Other than that, I have no report.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stumphauser. Any questions or comments? There's no report, but does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. We'll go then. We do not have response to the audience tonight. Open to the audience. We have one participant on Zoom. That would be Mr. Taft. Did you have anything you'd like to address council with tonight?
Hi again. Thank you, Council President Herron. Yes, I would. In the public hearing, I already addressed most of the tax issue, though it does relate to some extent to things that I'll say in a couple of minutes or in a minute. With respect to your upcoming meetings, first of all, I very much appreciate Ms. Fisher and the council accommodating Zoom attendance for us folks. And as you move toward regular meetings, when you're dealing with some of us really old people, and you already have council people and directors in the room. I'm hoping you might continue some Zoom attendance for those of us mostly listening in. It would be appreciated, and it'd keep more people out of your room. In terms of the main thing I want to talk about tonight is, some of you may be aware, we've talked often about the problem of the sanitary sewers in VOL. And this past weekend, or past Friday night, actually, there was another fun occurrence down here where a number of our neighbors found sewage inside their homes, where there was sewage flowing all over the street out of the manholes. And this problem has got to be fixed. We can't allow this to continue. Based on the testing and based on the fact that it occurs when there's heavy rains in the neighborhood, and no disrespect to the service department that I'm sure tries to do its best, but you know, they can't just go out and plug this up when it's happening. We need to get to the bottom of it, and we need to fix it. I certainly hope we do the inspections that we need to do to find out where the problems are. I have some suspicion that not all of it comes from within VOL, that there may be cross connections to other areas that are part of the problem, and we need to find out. But then we need to go beyond that. We need to fix it, and we need to fix it now. This has been going on for years. This is an unsanitary condition, particularly in a time of coronavirus. This could be carrying coronavirus into people's homes. This has to stop. The people in VOL, unlike most other people in the city, had to pay an assessment for their sanitary sewers when they were fixed. And yet we have all kind of stormwater still coming into them. I heard discussion tonight of the building department bringing a building inspector back on for the summer. I hope to heck one of his first priorities is to look at all the illegal connections. In the past, the building department and the service department have done good work in starting to correct that. Obviously, it's not enough. There's a lot more that needs to be done. But we also, I mean, we need to get all of the stormwater out of the sanitary system. That's not where it's supposed to be. And that's what's causing a very unsanitary problem. I have relative confidence that the city does not want to see other governmental units come in here and tell them what to do. So please solve the problem. I haven't heard any discussion that the pool is going to be on your agenda tonight. I know the mayor's considering it, and I know the Parks and Recs Board is going to consider it tomorrow night. And I think you all know my opinion, which is we should not open the pool for a lot of reasons. But if we're going to spend potentially as much as $50,000 this year, because we haven't even set or sold fees yet to open the pool, and don't fix the sewers, there are many of us that are going to be pretty upset. So I hope we start to do something a lot more about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tapp. We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we have under old business, review of section 147605 fence requirements and swimming pools. Gwen, what are we doing on that?
Tony will address you on that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We were asked to check with other cities regarding their ordinance pertaining to the height of fences around pools. And we did look at several communities. And although we did find a few requiring a 36-inch fence around their pools, the vast majority required a 48-inch fence. So we considered a recommendation to council to change our ordinance to 48 inches, but thought about the existing 36-inch fences around pools. Would we be saying that those fences are no longer safe? Would we make them change their fence in order to comply? Or would we just consider them to be legal, non-conforming and let them stay? We then started to think about the intent of the code. And we determined that the intent of the code is to keep small unattended children from accessing or falling into a pool. Anybody else that wants to get into a pool area will get in regardless if the fence is 36 or 48 inches in height. As residential building officials, we also tend to use the Residential Code of Ohio for reference whenever we can. And that code requires that all guards for stairs, porches, balconies, or landings shall not be less than 36 inches in height. So after considering the intent of the code and the fact that the Residential Code of Ohio is comfortable with a 36-inch high guard on a second-story balcony, it is our recommendation that our ordinance maintains the 36-inch fence requirements with the changes that were presented at last week's committee meeting.
And Steve, I would just add to that, have an application coming for the Board of Zoning Appeals on May 26th, and for no fence requirement. Same situation that the zoning board just passed at the last meeting. It was a rural area. And so I would suggest, or if council is happy with it, is to adopt this ordinance by emergency, depending on the vote. That way we can, not have to worry about all of these coming forth since it's pool season. Kind of address it now.
Okay. So we do have that for first reading tonight, so we'll address it at that point, depending on the motions and so forth. So, so kind of think in the back of your mind. We're going to go next to new business, and I'm going to make a motion that we go into executive session after this meeting, after our council meeting. And the reason is pending litigation, possible pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Gwen?
Steve Heron made the motion, so Steve Halivax, I'm going to take you as the second.
Okay.
All right, Halivax,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Gahan,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Heron.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we'll go to the reading of the ordinance. Mr. Stumphauser?
Thank you. By the way, you've been coming in and out, so can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Am I
Yes.
coming?
Okay. First reading of ordinance number 2020-19. An ordinance to amend section 1476.05 entitled, quote, fence requirements, end quotes, of chapter 1476, entitled swimming pools of the codified ordinances of the city of Vermilion and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion to suspend the rules with respect to ordinance 2020-19?
So moved.
Second.
Gwen?
Stark,
Yes.
Gahan,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
Halivax,
Yes.
Holmes, or Heron, sorry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-19 and declaring an emergency?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, what I would like to say is I appreciate where you're coming from, Mr. Valeris, but I just kind of want to get it straight in my mind. You're looking at it, or your recommendation is it keeping it at 36? We have a sitting ordinance that commands 36 inches, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so really are you trying to change it to make all of them now 36, or you want to grandfather the ones that aren't in? It wasn't clear
What
on
I'd
that.
like to do is adopt the changes that were announced in front of the committee meeting last week. I think everybody got a copy of those changes, which basically states that any pool, the changes were any pool with a sidewall height of 3 feet or more above grade shall not require a fence, so long as any ladder or access to the pool is affixed with a locking gate. And also, all fences shall be constructed of a solid, rigid material and secured in a safe manner. So that's basically stating that any above ground pools that are higher than 36 inches won't require a fence because it's, it's redundant.
Okay, and as I understand, that is consistent with the state code, basically.
Well, there's really no, I don't know what the state code is for pools, but when I
don't know
referred to the,
either, but I know that there's some recommendations that they have, and I think that is a 3-foot wall or fence. I'm gonna use both. I'll just say structure. But I don't recall the locking mechanism, but okay, I understand what you're saying now. So,
yeah,
okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was not at the committees last week. It's not an excuse. I should have.
that's true. Yes, I forgot.
I did have a look at that. So, okay. Are there any other questions or comments? I think we need to talk about, because this is going to impact many of our property owners, I think, to some extent.
Barb has a comment.
I think in our original quote, it did say that the gate to the fence had to be kept locked when the pool was not in use. I would like to have that added to if we don't have a fence, that those stairs to that pool have to be locked when the pool is not being used.
It's in there, Barb. It's in the ordinance.
Pardon me?
It's in there. It says any gate or opening in such fence shall be kept closed and locked when the pool is not in use.
That's for the fence, isn't it? Is that also included in the steps? I didn't think we went, when we added that we didn't have to have a fence if there was a 36-inch height above grade on the pool itself. I'd like to make sure that entrance to the pool was also locked when the pool is not in use.
So in other words, yes, I see what you're talking about,
Yes.
Barb. In the section that we changed where it says access to the pool is affixed with a locking gate, so then we should add when the pool is not in use.
Right, if that would be all right. It's another safety issue. And I guess my only other question is the law director comfortable with leaving the 36-inch height?
On the recommendation of the service director, yeah.
Okay.
I added that section to the ordinance. We just need to make a motion to amend it again.
Okay, well, let's just kind of go, any further discussion on the main body of what, dog, I'm sorry. Apparently. I'm gonna put myself on mute and go ahead and talk if you have any.
Okay, there you go. Frank, did you have to say anything?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Valerius's analysis. Basically, the height of 3 feet, and it meets the state statute. And as Mr. Holloway mentioned at another time, it's a deterrent. Someone, you could have a 6 or 7 foot fence. If somebody, teenager or whatever, want to climb over a fence and go to the pool, they're going to do it. This is mainly for small children as a safety measure. So I support this ordinance.
Is there any further discussion? Steve Holloway?
Yeah, I want to thank Tony for looking into that and getting that information for us. I also agree, Tony, thank you. It's a deterrence, like Frank said. If someone wants to get in the pool, they're going to get in the pool. The young children, that's what we're trying to, the safety for them. So thanks again, Tony.
Yep.
Any further comments?
Okay, now anybody have I appreciate Barb's. So is there any further on what Barb had wanted to do? All right, so I'm going to make a motion to amend this motion that's on the floor to include the change that Councilwoman Brady wanted to put.
Second.
Okay. So now, Gwen, we have in front of the floor that the
Amendment as adopt as amended. Is what we need.
adopt as amended. Okay,
That's how, and I'll call the roll as that.
thank you.
Holloway,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Gahan,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Motion carried. And then I will make sure the applicant knows for the zoning board that he meets the requirements basically, as long as he follows our code. So he won't have to go for a variance request, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. And with one more item there, Mr. Stumphauser.
Sure. First reading of resolution 2020 R-8, a resolution approving the 2021 tax budget and declaring an emergency.
And I would just ask the administration, Ms. Hendricks, did you want that tonight or can that wait? You're nodding your head in the affirmative. Okay.
Yes, tonight, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a motion to suspend the rules with respect to resolution 2020 R-8 and declaring emergency?
So moved.
Second.
Gwen?
Gahan,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Brady,
yes,
Hollivax,
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We have a motion to adopt resolution 2020 R-8 and declaring emergency.
so moved,
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. Go ahead.
Brady,
yes,
Hollivax,
Yes.
Gahan,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so at that point, as I said, our next council meeting will be a regular city council meeting, 6:00 PM on Zoom on June 1st. And then after that, I will announce on that day whether we go back to in-person meetings at the city building on June 8th at 7:00 PM. So with that, I wish everybody a very safe Memorial Day weekend. Even though the festivities are not going on, there's plenty of things that you can do to help our veterans and help those who have served. So we just ask you to maybe wake up Monday morning or anytime and just think of a creative way that you can thank a veteran, not just with your words, but an act of kindness. So with that, we will go into executive session. So thank
Okay,
you.
so I'm going to ask everybody to leave this meeting. Council, the mayor, and the law director, I will be scheduling a meeting right now, and I will be sending you the link. If you have a hard time finding it, get a hold of me or the mayor, somebody. All right, so you can all leave meeting now.